So, OCD, how I overcame mine, how you can overcome yours too. Put out a poll on my stories a couple of weeks ago asking, would people like me to go through this? And it was a resounding yes. I think it was about 95% of people said, definitely would like this topic um, talked about, because they themselves go through OCD or OCD like tendencies. And OCD affected my life in a big way for a long time. It started around sport, and trying to make sure that I performed well when I was younger. In a past life, I played rugby to a very high level, and so I was always trying to make sure that that went well. And then OCD creeps in, and you're seeing lots of sporting circles. OCD is huge because people, well, athletes are trying to create safety in an unsafe environment, or they're trying to create predictability in an unpredictable environment. And it started off with making sure I would undo my shoelaces and do them up a certain amount of times. I'd have to jump a certain amount of times to go come on the pitch. Then it was even like getting out of the car, locking and unlocking my car door, making sure things are at right angles. There was lots going on, just to get that feeling of feeling right and being like, okay, I did this last time and it worked. So even though there's so many other times that things didn't happen the way and I played really well, or things didn't happen and maybe I played a game where I didn't play so well, it's all completely irrelevant. But the brain's looking for safety. And the more toxic I got as well, like the more unhealthy I got, the worse it got. And there's reasons for this. And actually able to come and completely reverse this once I started to understand what was going on more. And really, it comes down to three different factors. It comes down to, one is the brain looking for safety, two is nutrition, and three, it's detoxification. And once you've got those things in place, it's a real game changer. So, first of all, the more toxic the body, the worse these issues are going to be. And I'll get to that, because I think what I'll do is attack the brain first. Now, the brain, as you may know, has different parts of the brain: the reptile, the mammalian, and you've got the human brain. And most people never get to the human brain because they're too busy trying to take care of the mammalian and the reptile brain. And reptile is all about basic human needs. Mammalian is all about hierarchy. And when you feel like your basic human needs are not going to be met, or you might be extroverted from the hide, the brain will do anything to try and keep safe. And when you're going into a sporting environment, particularly, there's lots of different factors that are at play and you can't control. But that's the same as life. Life is like that. There's so many different things that you cannot control. And when we're trying to control the uncontrollable, which is futile once you understand that, it's like saying, oh, Peter Crone talks about this. It's like saying, well, I want the sun over there. Like, yeah, but the sun's over there. Yeah, but I want it over there. That's not how life works. And you can try and resist that, which now you're angry about things not being the way you want them to be, and you're resisting it, which is completely futile. Or you can actually ebb and flow with life. And like a wave, you just ride the wave rather than trying to force against it. And once you start to understand that life is unpredictable, only always, then it becomes a lot easier to just to go with it and be like, rather than. And the reason a lot of the time is that we get stressed about this, or OCD comes in place, is because we tag our identity onto stuff. And so if things don't go our way, we feel less than. Happens in sport all the time. When you see a player, for example, when he's younger, he's fearless, or she's fearless. They go about their sport, they're breaking world records, they're taking people on, they're scoring great goals or tries or whatever it is, getting gold medals. And then once they reach a certain level, sometimes they struggle to ever be that maverick again or go for it again, because their identity is that of a champion. And because they don't want to lose that identity of a champion, they never push for that 10 out of 10 performance. Because when you go for a 10 out of 10 performance, you might miss. And you might, for example, go for a shot from a long way away and it goes way over the bar and they look foolish. Ooh, camera's just turning. Or you might in rugby try and throw a really like long miss pass to get your winger in the corner and someone intercepts it and goes at them for the pitch. Or you might try something, whatever it is, chip over the top or whatever it is, you may just really try to go for broke. That will give a 10 out of 10 performance, pushing the boundaries, but you never do because you're like, oh, if I just play a 7, then I'll stay there, my identity stays intact. And this happens a lot as well in life. Should I go for that job? Oh no, if I go for that job and I don't make it, people think I'm foolish, so I won't go for it. Or it could be anything, even to the point of like the person I'm dating. If I send this message or if I do that, then maybe they'll message me back. It's all just futile. And because humans are creatures of habit, if they ever are in an unsafe environment and they do something and their performance or whatever happens afterwards is something that they enjoy or it's helped them along the way or it increases their inflation of self, they'll tag that back to the thing they did. I put my right boot on first and followed by my left, undid my laces 3 or 4 times, and that's why I played well. It's complete nonsense. But the brain is looking for safety because the brain's always trying to do things automated as well. So for example, if you get in your car when you're learning to drive, you'll know exactly what gear you're in at every time, what speed you're going. 5 years down the line, you've been driving for 5 years, you can go 2 hours away, you won't have a clue how you got there because your brain's doing it all in autopilot. So the brain, when it's trying to do things automatically, it's looking to do things with the least energy. And to do that, it likes to be safe. It's the same way you get in sport. I would say a sport because it's the one that I can relate to the most. You get a player go in the changing room for the first time, he'll go onto a peg and he'll use that same peg or that same section of the changing room for years because they feel safe there. Because people, are in this situation where everyone's identity is logged onto the things that they do externally. Well, it's not true, but in our society it is. So that's one thing. So once you start to understand that everything you do in that term is completely pointless, it has no bearing on anything. It's you making sure you go out there and you give your best, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But people like to say, well, it wasn't me, it wasn't good enough, it was the fact that I didn't tie my shoelaces in that way. So no, it doesn't matter. You go out there and give your best, and that's all you can do. And that way as well, if you play really well or you do something really well, get the job, whatever it may be, promotion, it's down to you. And so just extreme ownership. But once again, it's a brain looking for safety. Then we come on to the nutritional part and the detoxification part, because sometimes with that, people can't even get to that state because they're so toxic, they're so inflamed that they're constantly in this state of stress, OCD, and fight and flight. And certain foods inflame the gut, inflame the brain. You're looking at, as I said before, wheat, gluten, caffeine, coffee, soy, pasteurized, homogenized dairy, alcohol, seed oils. I mean, all these things you eat these things, they inflame the gut, they inflame the brain. You've got a vagus nerve that goes from gut to brain. So the more inflammatory food you eat, the more it's inflamed, the more these things get triggered. These OCD-like tendencies get triggered. Artificial dyes, artificial sweeteners, flavors, colorings, all these things, processed foods, they all trigger them because they're inflaming the gut, inflaming the brain. And this has been documented. I mean, MSG is another one. It's got over 250 adverse reactions, adverse effects. So just if you're on a daily basis, you're eating these inflammatory foods, any little issue you have with OCD is going to be exaggerated. And then you've got all the other toxins that are in the body as well. So this is where detoxification comes in. If you've got a body that's full of heavy metals, parasites, unfriendly bacteria, plastics or microplastics, your colon's overloaded, your liver's overloaded, your kidneys overburdened, you've got all these things going on, then once again, OCD is just going to be exaggerated as much as possible. It's going to be pushed right up to the top. And I've seen people, just by detoxifying their body, cleaning out their colon, working on their gut health, Most people's gut health is completely out of balance in terms of the unfriendly versus friendly bacteria in their gut. We want about 85% friendly, 15% unfriendly. Most people have this in reverse. It's called a gut dysbiosis, and that causes all manner of issues. So just by getting that ratio balanced, people's lives change. But cleaning out the colon, cleaning out the liver, cleaning the kidneys, getting rid of heavy metals and parasites. I've seen people's symptoms just disappear by like 75 to 100% just by cleaning their body out. Why? Because once again, the more toxic you are, the more inflamed your body is. And then also, the more toxic you are, it doesn't take much just to push you over the toxic threshold, which causes a big issues. So all these things, remember, the way you approach life, your mental and emotional triggers, or not being triggered around OCD, and putting your identity into things, into outcomes. So understanding that life's always going to be helter-skelter, and rather than trying to force your narrative onto life, going with the flow doesn't mean you can't have goals and dreams and aspirations. It just means you're not super attached to them, and you're okay with whatever happens. I think it was Rumi that they asked him a question, said, how comes you're so relaxed all the time? He said, well, I don't mind what happens. I'm okay with whatever happens. And that's a very different way of going, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and basing our society the way that we deem people to be successful or not. So, one, going with the flow of life and being okay with what happens doesn't mean you don't have goals and dreams and aspirations and go for things. It just means that you're okay with the outcome. You're completely detached. And then making sure you're having a diet that's free of lots of inflammatory foods, and then cleaning out your body, cleaning out yourself, detoxifying your body, colon, liver, kidneys of heavy metals, parasites, healing the seal in the gut, making sure your gut health's correct. It's going to go a long way just to getting rid of your OCD, and it's completely changed my life. And we teach all this in the Total Health Revival course. If you're someone who struggles with OCD and you want to overcome this, then the Total Health Revival course will literally take you through this step by step, easy to follow process. And you'll understand in the course we look at nutrition, detoxification, the mental and emotional side of health, environmental side of health. That's another thing as well, guys. Making sure you turn your Wi-Fi off at night so your brain can detoxify. If Wi-Fi on at night means your lymphatic system can't detoxify. That's another thing that can actually trigger more of the inflammation in the brain, which brings on these tendencies as well. So Wi-Fi off at night. But the Total Health Revival course will literally walk you through exactly everything I've talked about here, step by step. It's a real education in health and healing, and it's protocols and principles you can use for the rest of your life. Okay, we'll also be going through this in the health optimization membership, and we're going through that the year. I'll be teaching you different modules. So if you're interested in any of those, send me a DM and we can have a chat and we can get to it straight away. But remember, this comes down to your approach to life, but also your nutrition and how toxic your body is, and also the external environment in terms of removing Wi-Fi, especially at night, and removing anything that can inflame the body. Do those things, you'll be on to a winner. And said, if you want help, Total Health Revival course, you can get straight into that now, or the health optimization membership. Either one, send me a DM and we'll get you on the road to recovery. OCD is no fun. Having lived with it for a long, long time, it really did ruin my life. I couldn't do anything without, doing a certain, pressing the door, unlocking the door unlocking the door and opening the door a certain amount of times, put my laces on, undoing my laces, tying them up, boot on the right foot, left foot. It was just manic, and it wasn't any fun. And so if you want to be free of that, send me a DM and we can get you to remove this obstacle, which is stopping you enjoying life. And as we always say, elevate your health, elevate your life. Lots of love. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.